Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon. Thanks for joining the What's New in Arbortext Content Delivery webinar. My name is Gil Schroitman. I'm the Senior Product Manager of Arbortext Content Delivery here at PTC. Okay, so before we jump into the details or the agenda for this webinar, I wanted to give some of you that might not be aware of what Arbortext Content Delivery is, a kind of quick high-level overview of our products and the technology and what it exactly entails. So PTC Arbortext Content Delivery is a powerful, scalable foundation which provides a single web portal to access your content regardless of where it's created and stored in your enterprise. PTC Arbortext Content Delivery enables the access to updated configuration-specific documents and part catalog, precision search, navigation, filtration pinpoints, as well as powerful bookmarks, interactive note sharing, feedback, and a lot more, allowing the users to find the necessary high-quality information right on time, boosting the user's productivity. If you're looking to increase your customer satisfaction, find parts faster with a higher level of accuracy, increase your aftermarket revenue and first-time fixed rate, Arbortext Content Delivery is the right product for your organization. And you can see some of the benefits that have been highlighted here on the slide. So with that, I'll start with some release highlights on a couple of release versions that we have and planning to release to market. The first one is 715 that has been released by July 27, 2021. And the second one that will be covered on today's webinar is the next coming 7200 version that's going to be available by the end of December this month. So I'll start with the 715 highlights, and here is a quick list of what it contains. So starting from some of the mobile devices supports and the GUI responsiveness enhancements, the options and choices, filters auto set, the ability to add part lists to shopping carts, related document and some viewer related enhancements. The built-in 3D illustration viewer feature has been enhanced with a couple of interesting features. We have extended and improved the scalability capabilities so far of ACDs or Arbortext Content Delivery deployments, as well as introduced some software compatibility updates. So with that, I'll jump to the next topic, to the first topic here on the list, which is the web mobile support. So as I mentioned, we have improved the Arbortext Content Delivery GUI responsiveness and adaptiveness to support mobile device size of screens. We have targeted specific operating system and platforms. So we currently support devices that are based on either Android, iOS, or Windows Mobile. The preferred or recommended screen sizes or the resolution range are within this range that's been specified in here for either mobile devices as well as iPads or tablets. We recommend using portrait on the orientation, so the landscape orientation is not yet supported. And we only support it on a web browser-based, so only Chrome and Safari at this point. There are also plans in the future to introduce apps and support it in offline mode, but currently it's going to be mostly focused on web browser support. And lastly, the recommended network speed is going to be 25 megabytes per second and above, so that if you are planning to use Arbortext Content Delivery on small or lower speed networks, then it might not be as performant as optimal as you would like it to be. The next enhancement that we introduced is around Arbortext Content Delivery ability to automatically set options and choices based on a selection of serial numbers or VINs, vehicle identification number. And this has become a growing need around all of our customers, mainly focused on manufacturing industries, but not only. So with that ability, the user experience and the kind of precision of servicing the right content that's relevant to the model or serialized component that your technician base is looking at has improved significantly. So it avoided the kind of human factor here and the need for those technicians to set up the filters manually. All of the work of selecting the filters is being done automatically by a predefined mapping that's being loaded into the system, either through the Windchill SIM component or through a CSV bundle that's loaded or originated from some ERP system. So this entire process and user experience of setting up the right context that's highly critical for the day in the field is being optimized and improved significantly. And this obviously, as I mentioned earlier, helps a lot in making sure that you fix the service technician or the aftermarket field technicians are being, their work is being optimized in the field and they help increase the first time fixed rate. Another improvement that we have pursued here is the ability to add the entire part list to shopping cart. So part list is usually perceived as the kind of the list of parts that consists of the either a full assembly or a sub-assembly. And it's being used as a kind of shortcut instead of clicking on those add to cart icons that you see here on the right, one by one. There is a new or nice shortcut that's being introduced here that allows you to simply add all of those with one click. We also provide the flexibility to either change the quantities before doing that. So you might as well change the default quantities that are being provided to you through the ordering system and add the relevant quantities that you want to add to the cart for each one of those items. There is also a preference that we introduced that helps the user base handle the way that they want to have superseded parts selected or added to the cart. And this allows you to select or between either the original part that's being requested, the part that's being preferred or marked as preferred in the supersession chain, or simply skip any of the parts that contains or superseded by other parts. Next item is the ability to, so we have enhanced a lot the kind of the built-in 3D illustrations viewer that's built into ACD, that's called the Thingview product, and we had improved some of the callouts and hotspotting mechanism, as well as added a nice new feature that allows you, that's called transform, that allows you to detach a part from the assembly and then transform the geometry around it for better visibility and interactiveness. So this is a very powerful tool that allows you to have better interaction with the original geometry at the points of service. Other improvement that we have introduced, the hyperlinks has been introduced. So we added a new hyperlink option that exposes any references to related documents directly from the main viewer or information structure page. So if you are looking into certain part list and you want to see any document that's relevant for each one of the line items, you can click on that chain icon that's being displayed here on mobile, or use the links that are made available through the desktop view to redirect directly to the relevant documents that are related to this specific part that you're looking at. Another alignment that we made with respect to custom attributes. So up until this version, there hasn't been the custom attributes that you've added to your shopping cart object hasn't been exposed into some of the output print layouts, such as the export cart, and we have aligned that in 715 to include any of the user or custom added attributes. And lastly, in terms of software compatibility updates, we've introduced a couple of new components, support for those components, including Windows Server 2019, Red Hat Enterprise Linux 8.3, PostgreSQL 12.4, Microsoft SQL Server 2019, and JBoss WildFly 2101. And the last item in this release highlights list will be some improvement that we have made along the lines of making ACD, or Arbortext Content Delivery, suitable for a much larger scale deployments. So it's now capable of hosting up to around 8,000 concurrent users simultaneously. And we also introduced a couple of kind of best practices or specific deployments specs for small, medium, and large on-prem or cloud deployment that will allow you to set up your deployment in the most optimal way to achieve the best delivery results. As well as introduced an option to divide your user base across multiple site groups for a more efficient and more efficient delivery. So this is an example of the large deployment specification that you might that we provide as an example here, so you can get an impression of the size and the actual load that we are talking of in terms of both data as well as the user's load, as well as the way to set it up properly across the different site groups. So this is an example of around 8,000 users in total, concurrent users. As you can see, if you have different geographical locations, you might consider setting up different set of users in each one of those areas to achieve optimal results. So with that, I'll jump to a quick demonstration that I put in place here that will help you realize the new improvement that we've made in the product. So just a second here. Okay, so and then before I start, again, the day-in-the-life scenario that I'm going to visualize here talks about a service technician that uses Arbortext Content Delivery to bow through the parts catalog and service documentation related to a specific service repair or inspection operation. And in today's scenario, I will be focusing mostly on simulating those activities on a mobile device size of screen. So with that, I'll begin with the demonstration here, and I'll start by looking at the new homepage, look and feel of the Arbortext Content Delivery homepage on a mobile device size of screen. So I'm using the browser viewer here that allows me to simulate the mobile sizes. Again, it's the closest that we can get to pass on the user experience and look and feel, even though it's missing some of the key touch gestures that you might want to use while using our application on a mobile device. So what you're looking at here is the main homepage of the application. As you can see, all of the key components are still intact, including the context or product selection bar, the favorite section, the general content, as well as the what's new, along with the main toolbar action that are being made available to you from the top section here, as well as some others that are being added into the program menu here. And as a service technician, I'll start with selecting the serialized component or the VIN I would like to look at or service. So you can either use the serial number selection box here. So once I'm start typing something here, I will get auto suggest some options being provided to me through the auto suggest feature. So I'm selecting the first one on the list here. And as you can see, the context bar shows me automatically filters, set some of the filters that are applicable for this specific serial component, serial number. So in this case, it auto sets 14 filters. I can also go through that list of filters or change those if I want to set something different. And I might as well want to look or use it some other way. So if I'm going back to the home page and I want to use or select one of the bookmarked models that I usually service that being made available to me here, such as the Indie Adventure 600 or in the Indie Evo Switchback Assault model, I might as well click on those and automatically auto set the same set of filters that are relevant for that specific model directly from here. So now I expanded the filters bar here, and as you can see, it's presenting or auto setting a different set of filters. In this case, 9 filters as opposed to 14. And you might as well filter it further by selecting a serial number out of that model. So in this case, I would like to select this one on the list. And as you can see, the content changed a little bit to and adjust the new context or serial number that's being selected here. I can bar through the information structure that's being made available to me with the different types and content that's again relevant for this model or serial number that's being set here. I can browse through the different folders or the information structure nodes here. And let's assume that I want to now look into this product, to this part list, ASM, Ski Pro, Steel, BSC. So I'm opening it directly from here. And the entire part list with the illustration pane, as well as the actual line items, part line items is being made available to me. So you can scroll down the list. You can use the callouts or any of the 3D illustration viewer options that were made available to us in earlier desktop application. Either click on the callout, so it will redirect you to the relevant part list line item, as well as see some additional information that's been made available to me here. So for example, this part line item has some superseded parts. I can click on that link to see what it entails and open the superseded part list directly, parts directly from here. I might as well want to add some of those to my shopping cart, so I can do that directly from here. I can scroll down or up the list here to see some additional information, such as, for example, this part that contains some alternate parts. So open the window here to see some additional information directly from the same page, as well as see some additional information like notes. So I'm scanning through that list and I see a note that's relevant for one of the line items. So I can open the note directly from here, and I see that this specific part contains some useful document that I might want to use during my repair operation. So I can open the related document directly from here and view its content. Another option I can use is go to the filters menu, this upper left side icon here, and directly from here I see the full list of documents that are being made available to me in the same context. So let's assume that I now want to dig into the details and follow some SCAG replacement procedure. So I can open the relevant service manual here, and it provides me with the actual service procedure that in this case, it's going to be an XML document added with some annotations or warnings, as well as embedded graphics that help me follow the repair operation properly. I might want to add some of the documents for as bookmarks for future reference, so I can do it directly from here. I can go back to any of the previously looked at part lists and add this one as well to my as bookmark. I can, if I want to maybe take it further, I can build a book that for a collection of documents that I just went through for offline use or for something that I can externalize from the system and send to some other stakeholder that would like to use the same operation. So I'm just adding this part list in here, as well as some other related document that I've been reviewing. Let's assume it's this one. I can add it directly from here. Let's in this case, it's a PDF document. And once I do that, I can review the document that I just added to the book. I can give it a different name. And generate a book. And the system will let me know once it's done and allow me to download it. And while it's being downloaded, I can perform some additional operations here. So let's assume that I want to continue adding some parts to a cart and that some parts that are needed for my repair operation here. So I can go back to the part list. And let's assume that I want to add all of those parts to my shopping cart, so I can do it directly from here by clicking on that add to cart icon that's being added on top of the part list page. And once it's done, you can see all the parts added in one go. Another nice feature that I just talked about earlier is the transform feature that we added in the 3D illustrations viewer. So if I'm clicking on that icon over here and I'm selecting a specific part in the assembly here in the geometry, I can now move it around, or maybe change the geometry, change the perspective here to see it from various different angles. That will help me service the product or do the repair operation in a better way. And lastly, as I mentioned, the book print that I just generated has been downloaded. So I just open it to show you how it looks like, but it contains all the part list information as well as the PDF that I just added. from the system. So it's quite powerful tool. Sorry about that. Okay, and just to complete the demonstration here, at the slide that I reviewed the list of parts that I just added and decided these are the parts that are needed for my repair operation here. I might as well add some additional information, such as ship to address, or add additional parts to the car directly from here using the auto suggest option. You might as well see another thing to notice here is that the parts that are in the cart are being categorized by the actual context. So if I added multiple different parts from various different models or serial numbers, you will see that categorization or groups being displayed to you directly from here. And once I'm done, I can click the order button to place the order, and this kind of goes or fires the order into the kind of actual part store e-commerce that you're using for order placement. So that concludes the demonstration of the recent 715 highlights. Now let me go back to the slide deck here, and we'll continue with the demonstration. Okay. And now I'll walk you through some of the improvements that we've made in 720. Again, this is the version that's still in development. It's going to be available by end of this month, December 30th. The main highlights that we are, it will include on top of the 715 highlights that I just mentioned, are going to be first thing, we are updating the Oracle Java version to version 11. That's the latest and greatest long-term release version that's available in the market. As of today, we externalize and replace the Windchill DS, that's the Arbortext Content Delivery LDAP component that's ending its life. We also externalize the JBoss WildFly, the application server component, introduced some additional improvements and updates around 3D illustration viewer, as well as introduced some new powerful data analytics tool at this point as beta version. So I'll start with the infrastructure updates. As I mentioned, Oracle is ending the premise support period for Java 8. That's the version that any of our earlier versions are built on by March 31, 2022. And if you decide to stay with this version, you will be forced to pay extra charges for the extended support period that's being provided by Oracle till December 2030. In order to avoid those extra charges, we offer an alternative with 7.2 to update to the next version of Java, which is the Java 11. And we also provided another improvement that which is the externalization or decoupling of ACDs or Arbortext Content Delivery application server to provide some better flexibility with security vulnerabilities addressing. So given those two infrastructure updates, we strongly recommend all of our customers that are still considering and hasn't started the deployment or update project to consider preferring 7.2 over 7.15. Again, for those exact reasons, the extended support cost savings for Oracle Java 8, as well as the fact that it's going to be safer version comparing to 7.15 in terms of our ability to address vulnerabilities that might occur in some external components like WildFly. as well as a longer support cycle that we will be providing for 7.2 until December 2024. So in terms of the WildFly externalization update, as I mentioned, part of the goal of what we're doing with this is we're trying to externalize all the third-party vendor components out of ACD so that it will provide us as well as our customers with better flexibility of updating those components to the latest and greatest without the need to update ACD along the process. So this is a very powerful capability that we are aiming to achieve that will allow ACD to be more responsive to vulnerabilities addressing and to the greatest and latest features that are being introduced by those third-party components, first and foremost, the WildFly application server. What this also means is that we will continue qualifying the newer versions of WildFly for any of the existing Arbortext Content Delivery versions that are still in support. Right now, we support the JBoss WildFly 24.01 version. And for any of the versions that will come in the future, we advise everyone here to refer to the release advisor, PTC release advisor, for the complete information about some future versions that will be supporting. Some of the new WildFly version might require some code alignments, and we will be taking care of those by introducing critical patches or CPS versions to accommodate that. So what does it mean in terms of the technical aspects of how to handle the WildFly application server while it's being externalized? So it will require some preliminary manual configuration prior to or post installing Arbortext Content Delivery. And the flow is being visualized here. So for fresh installs, you will now need to download the relevant version from the WildFly download page. Previously it was obviously bundled, and now you'll need to do it manually prior end. You need to rename the downloaded zip to wildfly.zip, copy it into the relevant folder that's being specified here. That's the ACD setup media folder. And repeat this operation for each one of the Arbortext Content Delivery server components that are being installed, typically the publisher as well as the viewer applications. And once that's done, you simply start Arbortext Content Delivery services and you are ready to go. In terms of updating WildFly post-installation, it's a little bit more complicated. You need to download it, again, from the download page, rename the existing folder that's already been deployed into wildfly_old, and copy the new wildfly.zip that has been just downloaded into the relevant software system folder in the application sources. And if required, and you will be noticed through the release advisor and our CPS calendar, there might be a need to install the latest CPS of that specific version that you're using in order to support the version that you would like to update to. And once that's done, you will need to repeat steps 2 to 6, again, in all the application server components and restart the ACD services. One last but important note here, this process must be followed in all of the application deployment components for both web and offline. So this is important to note. The next improvement that we've made or change that comes in 7.2 is the fact that as a result of the discontinuation of Windchill DS that happened back in December 2020, in 7.2, there will be no longer a bundle component for the ACD LDAP or the Windchill DS component. and we'll be offering an integration with any V3 compliant LDAP as a replacement. What this means is that you will need to set up and have a download and set up, so install and set up this component prior to installing Arbortext Content Delivery. And the way to configure it will be through the existing configuration point that you are familiar with from existing versions, through the GUI configurator and the administration utility. So we also provide some deployment example that you might want to use with one of the open sources options for LDAP, which is called OpenDJ. But we also advise everyone that are considering the implementation with any of the other V3 compliant LDAP to partner with some to some implementation services partner that will help you go through this process, especially in case you're planning to migrate the content from an existing Windchill DS or another LDAP. So this is a relatively more challenging task, and we advise you to not go through it alone. So in terms of the flow that's needed, it mainly comes down to whether or not you are planning to use or authenticate non-LDAP users or kind of guest or ad hoc users into the application. If there is no plan or need to do it, then the process remains as similar to today's. All you have to do is just install ACD Arbortext Content Delivery using the pre-existing LDAP tree structure that already been created in your corporate LDAP, and change the external LDAP configuration from the GUI configurator. If there is a plan and you need the additional LDAP that's going to be used for those non-LDAP users or ad hoc users access, then you will need to set up this additional LDAP as a replacement for the existing Windchill DS. So once you download and install that LDAP of choice, whether if it's OpenDJ or other, you need to specify the configuration details in the Arbortext Content Delivery installation panel. One important note here, you will have to grant this specific LDAP both read and write permissions. Otherwise, ACD will not be able to persist or register those ad hoc users into the LDAP while those are being authenticated. So it's important to set the permissions properly. And once that's done, you the entire task of populating the tree structure and the users into the LDAP is being made programmatically by our application. You don't need to take care of it. Once the application and ACD is being set up, the next step here will be to migrate the content from the previous Windchill DS. And once that's done, you're ready to go. So now we'll go through each one of the steps that are required in details, starting with the most straightforward option here, which is going to be to configure ACD with a corporate V3 LDAP. So in this case, there is not much change introduced here. All that needs to be done is to create the LDAP tree structure and then provide its path during the installation phase of Arbortext Content Delivery. And in case you need to change or add anything later on, you can do it through the configuration points that are being made available to you on the GUI configurator as being presented here at the bottom. The other option, again, if you're requesting and need to set up additional LDAP for non-LDAP or kind of ad hoc users access, then another option that one option that we provide is to configure it with OpenDJ. Again, it could be any other V3 compliant LDAP of choice, but we chose to provide that as a kind of documented example for better adoption. You need to download the OpenDJ Community Edition from their website. You unzip it and follow the installation and configuration steps that are being mentioned here, fill in the relevant attributes. And once that's done, you can you need to open the OpenDJ server control panel and verify it starts up and the base DN is being defined properly. You can check it from the manage entries section. Once the OpenDJ PC is being installed and configured properly, you need to provide the LDAP host and port details with the LDAP tree information during the installation of ACD itself. And in this case, as I mentioned earlier, in the Windchill DS case, the entire setup of the LDAP tree will be created programmatically by a Arbortext Content Delivery installer. You don't need to take care of that as long as you granted it with the right read and right permissions. Once that OpenDJ as well as ACD are installed and configured properly, the next step will be to migrate any of the existing data or user base from the previous Windchill DS in case you use one. In order to do it, first thing that needs to happen here, you need to uninstall the Windchill DS. So you can follow those command actions here for either Windows or Linux operating systems. And once the uninstallation is complete, you need to manually remove the Windchill DS folder. Once that's done, you need to create the same base DN in the that was created in the Windchill DS. Use the same exact name that you created or used there, and export the LDAP file of the users from the Windchill DS. There is some slight addition that you need to, some slight change that you need to make in this file. Just replace this object class with this one here that's being mentioned here. You just need to follow the CN specification that's being mentioned here and check to clear the schema validation option while importing. So that's also important to note here. So that concludes the Windchill DS replacement process. The next highlight of 7.2 is going to be some improvement that we made along the lines of 3D illustrations viewer or Thingview version update. We have aligned or improved, corrected some of the collage discrepancies that has been introduced in earlier versions, and improved some of the hotspots experience, especially on mobile and web graphical user interfaces. And lastly, another important and powerful tool that we're introducing in this version is going to be the ACD Analytics. Again, it's a beta version at this point, so it's not going to be fully productized, but we thought of introducing it because it's a very powerful analytic tool that will help you track and better understand your online content, your customers' usage habits and patterns, as well as improve the user experience to get better results from Arbortext Content Delivery. And the reports set spans across two different domains or report set domains. So first one is going to be the usage analytics. So this will provide you with key insights for understanding the user's usage habits, how many active users versus registered you have in the system, the peak versus off-peak hours, the top 10 users, idle users, so on and so forth. Next category is going to be the data analytics. So this will provide you with an important perspective on what types of content and volumes are being loaded into Arbortext Content Delivery. So starting from the list of types, its volumes, how many items from each type, and its distribution across the different product models, serial numbers, and segments that are being loaded into Arbortext Content Delivery. So there is a couple of graphs or bar charts that are added here to give you some sense of how it looks like. And it's all being, again, populated through an Microsoft Excel spreadsheet. So I'll go through the details on how to operate and execute it in the coming slide here, but it's quite intuitive and easy to use. And lastly, the sales analytics, that's a report that is going to provide you with additional insights on part selling, patterns, and other revenue growth opportunities. So for example, giving you some perspective on which parts are most ordered, that you might want to bundle together as a kit, order revenues by product groups, as well as the total revenue divided by a certain time frame. So all of those will be made available to you. And in order to execute a generated report, we've introduced a new task manager task that's going to be made available through the Eden section of the task manager. And as I mentioned, it's very easy to use. You just define the reporting time frame, whether if it's past 30 days, 3 months, 6 months, or some custom range. You can set a password for opening that report zip once it's being exported. And you can also anonymize any of the personal information, such as the user IDs that are being exported into that report if you decide to, and we highly recommend to doing or pursuing or using both the password protection as well as the anonymization options to make sure you protect the privacy of your users and the GDPR compliance policies. So that's it for the analytics tool. And once it's being generated, you will get a file or zip file package exported or downloaded into your client machine. So it will contain this spreadsheet that's called ACD report, as well as some additional supporting resources. And you might as well want to continue or build your own set of reports on top of the existing template that you provide. So there is additional set of reports that are being made available through the Eden sheets of the Microsoft Excel spreadsheet. And we highly recommend you to look into those and create your own reports for your specific business needs. And lastly, in terms of product interoperability, ACD 715 is going to be compatible with those SIM versions 11.1 M20, 11.2 M10, 12.020, as well as the Arbortext Publishing Engine 8.1 and 8.11. And Arbortext Content Delivery 7.2 is going to be adding to that list also the Arbortext Publishing Engine 8.1.2, as well as Windchill CMSP 11.1 M20 and 12.020. And we also recommend you to look into the relevant documentation resources that are being made available to you through our eSupport portal. So there is a couple of useful links that I've just added here for your easier tracking and reference, such as the Read This First, the Getting Started document, the Release Advisor that I mentioned that will be replacing the software matrices document that we used to maintain in earlier versions, and will provide you with much better visibility across all PTC products, the hardware sizing and scaling guidelines that are now being added with some specific guidelines about around small versus medium versus large deployment scales, the deployment checklists that helps you set up Arbortext Content Delivery deployment properly, as well as some other improvements around REST APIs. So we advise everyone to look into those links and refer to us in case of any additional questions or concerns. So with that, I'll let that concludes my webinar for today. And we, again, Melissa, I don't know if we have some time for questions.
Yep, we sure do.
Okay.
If we run out of time, then we can reach those folks offline. So if you haven't already, go ahead and upload your questions into the Q&A box. And first question is at 2 parts. It says, which style sheet is used for generating an ebook? I'm sorry, for generating a book? And can the user set up this style sheet, or is it hard coded?
Yeah, so there is a special style sheet that's being used for that specific book print. You might as well, there are some instructions that are being made available to you in our customization guide and online help that guides you some of the options to customize it. Some of the things are not being made available through customization, so you may want to refer to those documentation specs and let me know if you have any further concerns or questions.
Okay, great. Another question. Does ACD 7.2 have a functionality of interactive linking from text to graphic inside service documentation? And they're asking, that is select text and height callout on illustration or start animation. And they're saying same as service parts.
I'm not sure I'm following the exact question here. I can tell you.
You want
that,
to read? Can you see the question in the Q&A box there?
Yeah, I can see it. Yeah, so there is an option to do that. You can embed a link in the graphics. So there is an option to do it. It requires some customization to pursue it, but it's something that's possible to do.
Okay, perhaps you can reach this person offline and dig into the details a little bit more.
Sure, we will.
Okay, so yeah, if you haven't submitted your questions, go ahead and submit them now. I did want to mention that we do have another webinar scheduled for Tuesday, December 14th, and it will be around the Arbortext 8.1.2 and Arbortext Layout Developer and Editor 12.1.2. So that's a webinar coming up on Tuesday, the 14th of December. And so because I went ahead and recorded this, I will be posting this webinar on our Arbortext YouTube page, and I'll send out an email once it's posted and available. So I think that's it for questions. Oh, we got one more question. Is there any OOTB integration capabilities with other systems like Siebel, S-I-E-B-E-L, Ecom, etc.?
Yeah, good question. So there is some built-in integrations that we actually offer through ERP systems. So there is a special section that we introduced in the deployment configurator for pursuing it. But fundamentally, you can create the integration with any system of choice, such as Siebel or any other e-commerce, using the REST APIs interface that we provide. And we also improve the documentation around it to make it more easier to adopt and integrate with and implement. So it's definitely supported.
Great. Okay, I think that's it for questions. Again, thanks everyone for joining today. And like I mentioned, you'll get an email from me once you are able to download this presentation on our YouTube channel. So thanks again, and have a great day or evening wherever you're located. And thanks, Gil.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Melissa.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.